I'll tell you this, if Jan Blachowicz can go out there and get a crazy knockout and just blast Magomed Ankalaev in the first round, put him on his back, follow-up shots, gets the belt back, I would love that. The UFC light heavyweight title is on the line, and I've said this for a while regarding Magomed Ankalaev. It's not a matter of if, but when this guy is going to be fighting for a title. We got Jan, the guy who's kind of like an uncle, a little bit of an accent, but he speaks English, so he's a little bit relatable at the same time, so he's easy to root for, versus Magomed, completely unrelatable to us Western fans. Guy who just crawled out of a random cave in Makhachkala, Russia, Ankalaev. And honestly, guys, I don't think I could really pick anyone to beat Magomed Ankalaev right now. At least I don't think I can confidently pick that to happen. And I do not think that Jan Blachowicz is going to be the guy to put Magomed Ankalaev's lights out. I think that Jan Blachowicz has a decent chance, and some people are writing him off, and that honestly kind of doesn't make a lot of sense. If you look at what Jan Blachowicz has done, outside of the Glover Teixeira fight and outside of his first few fights in the UFC, he's beat Israel Adesanya. He outstruck Adesanya, who's one of the best strikers in MMA, right? He's knocked out guys like Dominic Reyes. He was the first guy to put Dominic Reyes' lights out, right? He knocked out Luke Rockhold. He knocked out Corey Anderson, right? This guy has tremendous finishing power, and even in his last fight, Jan still looked pretty good. I was expecting Alexander Rakic to go in there and just beat him up for 5 rounds. After seeing that embarrassing performance that he had against Glover Teixeira, which a lot of us picked him to win that. And here's the thing, Magomed Ankalaev may not be just excellent anywhere, but he's really good everywhere. He is a great striker. He's a good counter striker who has big power, right? He has the ability to take you down. He's got that Sambo background. And when he gets you down, he can be dangerous. And we saw that against a guy like Anthony Smith, right? When he took Anthony Smith down, or Anthony Smith actually attempted to take down, it got reversed. He beat the shit out of Anthony Smith, who's pretty decent on the ground. And I don't want to put too much stake into Anthony Smith's injury. I think that's a little bit overplayed, to be honest, guys. I think that Anthony Smith was overplaying that to just kind of cope with the loss. But to me, when I watched Magomed Ankalaev's fight with Anthony Smith, I saw a gap everywhere the fight went. I saw a gap in the striking. I saw a gap in the striking defense. Magomed Ankalaev, just like Jan Blachowicz, showed that he can check leg kicks really well. And I believe that that is sort of what led to Anthony Smith's leg being compromised. Not only that, but Magomed Ankalaev has some lightning fast kicks. And I know that Jan Blachowicz has really good kick defense, especially leg kicks. That is actually one of his biggest weapons, and it's a defensive weapon because Jan Blachowicz can take that away from a guy like Israel Adesanya, one of the best leg kickers in the game. Not only that, but Magomed Ankalaev kicks a lot, and Jan Blachowicz was able to also take away that attack from who other than Alexander Rakic, the guy who has one of the most powerful leg kicks in the entirety of MMA, right? We've seen Alexander Rakic completely change the tide of a fight with 3 fucking leg kicks, right? I remember he fought Anthony Smith and Alexander Rakic just destroyed Anthony Smith's legs with like 3 or 4 leg kicks, and after that Anthony Smith couldn't walk. I just think that Magomed Ankalaev is going to be able to edge out some rounds on the feet. And I also think he'll be able to take Jan Blachowicz down. And that's ultimately what's going to lead to my prediction, guys. I think that Magomed Ankalaev is going to win this by decision. He simply has the option to take down Jan Blachowicz. And I've seen Jan Blachowicz get taken down before. He is pretty decent on the ground, but he's not all that good when he's on his back. The ease that Glover Teixeira had with finishing him off on the ground was pretty impressive. And it made Jan Blachowicz look a little bit pathetic. I mean, I'm just going to say this. I've never seen Magomed Ankalaev look pathetic. I know he's gotten submitted by a guy in Paul Craig before, but he was winning the majority of that fight. And if I'm looking at his last fight, despite Jan Blachowicz looking good on the feet against Alexander Rakic, despite him taking away Alexander Rakic's most powerful weapon on the feet in the leg kicks, he still got taken down early on in the second round and was held there for the entirety of the round. Now, Alexander Rakic wasn't able to mount off that much offense, but I believe that Magomed Ankalaev is probably even better on the ground. He has the Sambo background. I've seen him finish guys on the ground as well. And to be honest, I just think that Magomed Ankalaev, if he has any bit of struggle on the feet, he'll be able to resort to those takedowns, and he doesn't really put that much energy into them, right? He utilizes his trips. He'll find the clinch first. He's not going in there and blast double legging you. He's really good at conserving his energy, and that's why I think that if I'm going to look at which guy has the advantage going in a 5-rounder, I honestly think it might even be Magomed Ankalaev. This guy just knows how to steal rounds. I mentioned his leg kicking game, lightning fast leg kicks. I don't think I've seen leg kicks that are that fast. Even Adesanya telegraphs his leg kicks more than Magomed Ankalaev, and I have to give the boxing advantage to Jan Blachowicz. I think he has the boxing advantage. You know, do I see Jan Blachowicz hurting and wobbling Magomed Ankalaev? To be honest, I just don't. You know, he is, I believe he's in his 40s now. And I know I've said this about Wonderboy last week, and the whole topic of discussion was he's in his 40s and he's taking on a prime Kevin Holland. But this is Magomed Ankalaev. Kevin Holland was never even ranked, right? Magomed Ankalaev is just someone who's really well-rounded everywhere and doesn't really make a lot of mistakes. And he's just so good at slowing down a fight. Jan Blachowicz has a pretty nasty lead kick to the body. He likes to finish off a lot of his combinations with that left kick to the body. And it's really rare that you have a guy that fights out of an orthodox stance who will prefer to throw the left kick, their lead leg, as their power kick. That's how he was able to bruise Dominic Reyes's ribs back in their fight before he finished Dominic Reyes. But if I'm looking at these guys that he's finishing, you know, Dominic Reyes, if you look at him outside of that John Jones fight, and even in that John Jones fight, which, you know, this is not going to make John Jones look really good, by the way, he fights like a little bit mopey, right? He kind of mopes around the octagon like this. Like, he's like one of those tall guys that doesn't have the best coordination. He's got a little bit of an awkward build, a long torso, T-Rex arms. I just think that Magomed Ankalaev is an opponent that Jan Blachowicz has never really fought. Now, Glover Teixeira was able to rock Jan Blachowicz as well, and he also had that option of a takedown. And if Magomed Ankalaev is going to go in this one with a plan to wrestle, with a plan to take Jan Blachowicz down here and there, I think he's going to edge this one out, and I could see him hurting Jan at certain points of the fight. So how do I think this one's going to play out? Well, I think the first round will be relatively slow. I think both of these guys like to download their information, and I see them being really patient. But I could definitely see Magomed Ankalaev getting the better of Jan Blachowicz in the first round, just based on him having the speed advantage, based on him being a little more active. And I also see both of these guys trying their luck with the leg kicks. And who has the advantage when it comes to the leg kicks? That is an excellent question, because Magomed Ankalaev showed that he can check really well when it came to his fight with Anthony Smith. Who is going to have more success when it comes to the leg kicks? That is what I am really excited to find out. Both of these guys have really good leg kick defense. I would give Jan Blachowicz the edge in leg kick defense based on who he's been able to defend leg kicks from, right? Anthony Smith has never been the biggest, most dangerous leg kicker, whereas Jan Blachowicz has taken guys out like Israel Adesanya and Alexander Rakic. And if Jan Blachowicz can check Magomed Ankalaev's leg kicks, that could change this fight a lot. That could slow him down. That can slow his takedown attempts down as well, and that can really compromise him. But Magomed Ankalaev also has a really sneaky high kick. I haven't really seen many guys in this weight class kick with the speed that Magomed can kick with, and he doesn't telegraph them at all. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's able to land some good high kicks on the guard of Jan Blachowicz. Who knows, maybe he could even break his hand doing that. I think in the second round, Magomed Ankalaev is going to try his luck with the grappling, with the takedowns, and I think he'll be able to land something. If he's not able to have success there, then I think Jan Blachowicz will be able to get some offense going with his boxing, maybe land some of those power left kicks to the ribs of Magomed Ankalaev. But I just don't really see him having so much success stuffing these takedowns. So Magomed Ankalaev actually has a lower takedown shot average than Jan Blachowicz. He doesn't really shoot all that often, but I just know that he's an incredibly good grappler just by looking at that takedown defense. 86% takedown defense, which is really impressive. And I have seen him on the ground. You know, I saw him finish Anthony Smith, and I don't want to hear about the legs being compromised, right? He beat his ass. Let's be real. He beat his ass on the ground. He finished him off, and he told Anthony Smith, go back to the B tier, kid. You're not up in the A tier with us big boys like Jan Blachowicz, Glover Teixeira, Yuri Prochazka. Anthony Smith talking about, I'm going to light the octagon on fire when I get in there. Listen, Anthony Smith can beat up on a guy like Ryan Spann. After that, he's in the B tier. You know, he ain't getting up in the A tier. And Magomed's in the A tier. And Jan Blachowicz is in the A tier. But I just think that Magomed Ankalaev is looking at those takedowns of Glover Teixeira, of Alexander Rakic, and he's saying to himself, you know what? I think I'm a smarter fighter than Alexander Rakic. I don't get hit as much as Glover Teixeira. I'm a better striker than him. I think if I mix it up, I can get this one going. You know, I could see Jan Blachowicz maybe stealing a third, maybe even a fourth round, but I just think Magomed's going to win 3 out of the 5. And he's just really good at banking rounds, man. He's really good at banking rounds. He has such a well-rounded game. And again, he can fall back on that grappling if he needs to. So I've made my prediction. I think this one's going to go to decision. And I think Magomed Ankalaev is going to edge this one out. However, I will not be surprised if Jan Blachowicz is able to win this one either. I'd say, if I had to look at the probabilities, I would say that Jan Blachowicz has a 35% chance to win this one, whereas I think Magomed Ankalaev's got that 65% chance. I really do. And also, I can't really relate to Magomed Ankalaev. I mean, you think Magomed gives a fuck about social media? This guy doesn't even post himself. He's got like one post for every 2 months. His manager's probably doing everything for him. I'm sure he might be a cool guy, but I don't even speak his language, so how would I know? It's just hard to get behind the guy. In the day and age where you're supposed to promote yourself online, he's just not doing any of that. The guy just wants to get in there and fight. And as a fighter, he's really damn good. And I actually like watching him fight. But I'll tell you this, if Jan Blachowicz can go out there and get a crazy knockout and just blast Magomed Ankalaev in the first round, put him on his back, follow-up shots, gets the belt back, I would love that. So I'm actually rooting for Jan Blachowicz in this one. I just don't think he's going to win.